welcome. Hello. Some of you out there already, I can see that. Even though you can't see me, I can see you. I can see, sort of. I can see enough. Limbering up, thought I'd jump on early-ish, to work the magic. Work the panels. Work those panels. Not sure what any of this does. There's one. It's one the button for bowls trick. It could be. Yeah, to work the panels and get out there, whether they like it or not. Let's have a quick blast before we blast off of this.
I'm Robert Picardo. If you're like me, you've probably become a big fan of interactive computer games. Wouldn't it be great if there was some kind of interactive switch that you and I could throw that would actually change the course of history? You know what? We already have it. It's called the voting lever. So this November 5th, make sure the game ends the way you like it. Get in there and throw the switch. Vote. It counts.
For voting information, call 1-800-622-SMART.
Bob, I think they voted, mate. I think the votes are in. Hailing you, hailing us from the USS Warp Drive. We are live, we are raw, and back to the final frontier earlier than planned. What could possibly have brought our crew back together? Yeah, so this is how it is. We're going to pile into the USS Athena one more time. After all, the only problem is there was somewhat of a fracas or a melee. After our last show, things got a bit lively, and I think words were said, other words were said, profanities were in the air, and before we knew it, it all kicked off. So we're all barred. They're sorting it all out, putting it all back together, so we can sort of peer in and see how it's all, sort of back the way it was. It's always hard to tell with these places, isn't it? So because we can't get into there, we're going to have to make do, aren't we? Lay down the welcome mat and see who beams in. This is part of honouring the 60th anniversary of Star Trek, of course. We're doing our bit. If only they would do their bit. Rather than the 10 bits that we've had so far this year, things can only get better, can't they? We shall see. We shall see. We'll find out who you are in due course. I'm Dan Hadley, Birmingham's King of the Geeks. I'd almost forgotten that bit. And I will be joined very, very soon by more people, more faces and voices. Other Star Trek fans and foes. So I want to hear what you've got to say about that and the various other things we're going to be talking about. You can let the torpedoes, the photon torpedoes fly till your little hearts are content. How's that sound? Yes, so let's have a casual chit-chat until they show up, until they beam in. Who are you? Where are you? Who am I? Funky's in. Hi, Funky. Hi, all, says Funky. You're in on a Saturday night, Funky. I thought you'd be too funky for all of that. Dear me. Funkiness needs a top-up. I think you should be in on a Saturday night. Starfleet Academy boldly going absolutely nowhere. Yeah, I know. Oh, we have a boomer in. Is this a new boomer? Boomer 444. We can only celebrate 50 because the last 10 years because the last 10 years have been bad. Well, there is that. I mean, some people would argue that earlier seasons of some of the Trek shows weren't exactly on mission. Results may vary because people were slagging off Voyager for years, weren't they? There we are. Yeah, so let us know what you think of everything that we talk about on this edition of the show. I have deployed links to the concerned parties, including the concerned party who's here, that I thought I'd sent a link to, and I hadn't. So there we are. It was all going so well. It was all going so well. Yes, so Boomer 444. I want to know what you've got to say, of course. So we've got a few things to get stuck into as we move on, as we move out there. So yeah, how's everybody's weekends been? I want to know about all of that sort of stuff as well. As this slot, this strand evolves, we're going to go various places at various speeds and take in what we need to. We're going to be inviting people back, new people on as well. We're going to have the transfer window will be open. The transporter window will be open for people, anybody to come on and have a chat as we sort of move on. So yes, stay tuned, as they say, and who knows where we'll go with this now that the series we were reviewing is out of the way. Oh, Gary's here. I've got Gary. Hi. Hello, mate.
Hello. I'm a very concerned party. Yes.
Since Alex Kurtzman took over Star Trek.
Yes. And all of those problems that you were alluding to on last week's show, I mean, we know that that's all Luke's fault. So, hopefully that won't occur again.
Luke Walters, the chief hooligan, I blame him for most. I blame him for most things.
Yes. He's my go-to blame person for most.
Well, the fact that he's not involved in Star Trek and doesn't even watch it at all. It's neither
doesn't matter.
I don't.
It's still his fault.
Hello, my fellow Trekkies. Hello, and
Hi,
good
Rose.
evening from the Fair Rose. Good to see you. And we've got Bear on a Witch. Bear on a Witch. What a brilliant name. Hey, Chief, is this open or private panel? Well, this one's a private panel, Bear on a Witch. But we are recruiting. The transporter window is open. So if you are a podcaster, a content creator, a YouTuber of any kind, get in touch with us here at Warp Drive. And as the show sort of evolves over the coming months, the various things we're going to be doing, the idea is that we can bring people on and we can have a chat. You can have a rant or have a rave, whatever fits. We'll get to know whoever wants to come aboard can step aboard for a little while and have their say. That's part of our plans for Warp Drive here on a Saturday, and the various other things that we've got planned. So yes, just get in touch tonight. It's all sort of pre-planned, so we kind of know where we're going. Sort of. We certainly know who's here. So stick around. I mean, if you're a new name, you might not like us as much as. So if you like the sound of us and you want to get involved, we'll be receptive to that. So stay around, stick around, as they say, stick around. Matthew Pounder has always seen Star Trek as a conservative show, but maybe that's just me. Well, Roddenberry's values were he's framing for the Star Trek universe was utopian on the surface.
Yeah,
but I think it's actually incorporated a lot of conservative values rather than being exclusively progressive ones. I think that we've gone so binary with that conversation. In the years since Roddenberry's death, in particular, since 91, I think we've got very, very tribal with these things rather than a sort of rubbing along together and taking the best ideas from one camp, the best ideas from another, and kind of working things out. I think that's a different sort of equation, but it could be a talking point for a further show, Matthew. So put a pin in that, as they say, in the nicest possible way.
I mean, especially in the original series, it was a very humanistic show, emphasizing like science and man's achievement, rationality, the fact that mankind was still reaching but still worthy of going out to the stars. that was very much what Roddenberry was all about.
I'm not known for my rationality. Fortunately for us, the rabbi from another planet. He is. And I love how whenever we do one of these with a kind of Star Trek flavor or general sort of feeling, he always comes as a red shirt, but he always survives, lives to fight another day.
Hello, how are you? I apologize. I thought when did you start?
I started a little while ago because I'm kind of cobbling this together. It's going to be a bit of one thing and a bit of another.
Mate.
Bear on the Witch and the people who've joined us in the live chat, and Funky and Boomer and everybody else, we weren't actually going to talk about Star Trek, but we knew what would happen. We knew what was going to happen this time because obviously that big story broke, and so we figured that. So yeah, it looks like things are at play very much in the rabbi's abode. So I've been on for just a little while.
I've been packing all evening. I'm moving tomorrow and the day after. So this is the final stream from my inner sanctum. So I get my new one, which is tomorrow. I'm moving in. I'm very excited.
You'll have to christen it, won't you?
Indeed. Yeah. I just I thought I was early. And the other thing is I got the time difference wrong. Like for me, it's 11 o'clock. It's coming.
We're all in different time zones anyway, and all the time zones are shifting. So I figured I'd get on. Yeah. I'd just sort of bring on whoever was on when they came on, and I'd effectively be my own warm-up man. I'd be my own fluffer, if you like.
Well, I hope you feel fluffed.
Significantly so, and even more so. Double proud to welcome David Milling. He's here as well. Fed and watered, I think. Hello, mate.
Hello. Thank you.
I love how he saves the Kirk hello for when we do this slot. It's great stuff. Hello,
absolutely.
Mate.
Hello. Good evening. Yes, I had chicken fajitas for tea, so it was very nice. Thank you.
I was thinking about when I brought everybody on to do that, but I thought that could get old quite quickly. So that I've done it every time. Just you hear that internally.
I will do. I hear that in my ears. Yes, in my brain. Yeah, good. It's nice to see It's nice to see the rabbi's room looking slightly dishevelled and in disarray.
I'm in the midst of moving out.
I know.
I mean, look at it. It's So I got a couple of big strapping boys coming tomorrow. Who Rusty Davis will be very excited.
His ears perked up.
I've been packing boxes for like last couple of hours.
Oh God. Yeah.
Oh, I'm not a fan. Not a fan. Let me tell you.
It makes you wonder, doesn't it, whether Russell T Davies calls round Pickford's and gets a couple of their finalists.
I think he probably does.
I have to ask, Rabbi, have you got your wall-to-wall collection of Readers' Wives boxes?
Are we talking about Readers' Wives or Readers' Wives?
We can't possibly get.
That's the worst.
We can't possibly get into the hardcore talk without our final crew member. He's here and ready to step out of the transporter and into our hearts. As always, it can only be the mighty Bolstrick.
Hi. So my voice is my voice may be a little bit hoarse. To clarify, so there's a show that we do not mention by name on this stream, #ban, but there's a certain man named Russell who said some very stupid things this week, and so I just finished recording a video where I tear this person named Russell a new asshole. My average script is usually about 4 to 5 single pages. Those were my scripts for Starfleet Academy. This script was just under 9 single blind pages. So basically, I yelled for 9 minutes straight. Some of this is going to get cut out. But yeah, so you hear what my voice is like right now. That's the level of yelling you can expect when my first Doctor Who video, my first video about that terrible show drops in about a year. Yes, not a Doctor Who show, #ban, but it's been like years since I've done sort of what I rip apart an article, and they're a lot more fun, especially when people say things as stupid as Russell. What an idiot.
Don't Chris, don't cut anything.
Well,
Chris.
how it's going to work this time is that I knew that as soon as we got together, after a couple of weeks, after one big news story breaking in particular, I knew that we wouldn't be able to resist. We wouldn't be able to resist talking about that. So this show, this live stream, is sort of going to be sort of what we usually do, but arse about face. So we'll come to the cold open after we've talked about this, and you can let those photon torpedoes fly in Russell, whoever that is, in his direction, or anybody else. I've got lots of different things which I've pulled out of offline, carefully selected things to throw at you, and we can sort of have a general sort of spitball conversation, I thought. But for the time being, my reasoning was that given the fact that we've been on our tour of duty, haven't we, in honor? Oh, so we thought of the 60th anniversary of Star Trek. We thought we'd follow it through and see what they would lay before us. It's not worked out too great, has it? And just when we thought we'd got some sort of time away from thinking about it, never mind watching it, the USS Athena sort of reared itself out of the fog, and the coprolites that were forming in its wake, really, into the news sphere. And onto all our social media feeds. It's caused somewhat of a stink, but I don't think many of us will be too sad to have seen the news. Brace yourself. Yes, you.
What is she, Gollum?
What?
No, that's called AI.
That? She looks like she's about to take a shit.
Brace yourselves, everybody. I know this is going to cut you to the quick, in particular, Chris, but Starfleet Academy was officially cancelled by Paramount Plus on the 23rd of March 2026, and the series will, after all, conclude
we're not done yet.
Following its second season, which has already finished filming. So season 2's finale will be the series finale. It's already been filmed, as we know. It's currently in post-production and is expected to premiere early in 2027. So this was broken. This whole story was broken by Variety. So this was a big story on the 23rd. But what really struck me, and of course there was gnashing of teeth right away, but what really struck me was how there can't be many shows that have gone from, in 12 weeks flat, from a red carpet premiere to cancellation in those 12 weeks. This is an absolute embarrassment, but a merciful release, I feel. So yeah, Chris, I mean, obviously you were there in the trenches every week, pulling like treble, quadruple shifts, including talking about it with us. I mean, where did you see the news, and how did you feel?
Why are they all wearing skates on that one?
Where was I? I was present on Earth, unlike the people behind this. When I saw it, see, I figured, just I gotta take a sip of my coffee here because I gotta stop yelling. I'm getting too old for this.
You have to get an AI to do it in your.
No, I will not do that. Some people, no. I scream on my own volition. I don't care if it like puts the blood pressure through the roof and like literally, guys. I scream for 45 minutes straight. That's how long the audio file is. It'll be much shorter when it gets edited. But yes, I scream for 45 minutes straight. My dog will not talk to me. Neither will my neighbors. But yes, so I figured there were two outcomes. One was because Discovery got 5 years. This would get 5 years. And I'm thinking, well, if nothing else, it's great content. But the swamp from where this came from, and for those of you who don't know, Pinewood Studios in Toronto was built on top of a literal swamp that used to smell like actual shit, so it makes sense. But it got canceled. Are they all for a second I thought that was real, and for all we know, that might be real. They're all wearing dresses. Jesus Christ!
I have literally no idea.
But I was I was excited, but we're not done, Dan. There's another 10 episodes, and I don't care. I'm burning this into the ground. I will be covering the 10 episodes. But I would just before I let somebody else speak. So Skydance, we're gonna have another discussion here. We've had many of these, and you've ignored everything I've said. So we're just going to have another discussion. So Skydance, I warned you. I've been warning you for 3 years. Do not release this. But what did you do? You released it. And how much brand damage did you do? Well, you did a lot because nobody knew about Discovery. Everybody knows about Starfleet Academy because we're in the in theory post-woke world. Something that would have been over the top during peak woke happened to come out this year, and everybody knows this exists. So Skydance. So what we need is, first we need an apology video. Then we need this show to be completely disavowed. And here, if you're going to release season 10, here's what you do.
Season 10?
Season 10?
Season 10.
Yeah,
or the next 10 episodes. I broke my brain earlier. Brain damage as well. So the next 10 episodes of season 2. So here's what I want you to do. You're going to turn them into riffs since you've wasted all that money, including Canadian taxpayer money, I should say, because they get a tax credit because this was filmed in the swamp. So yes, our taxes have helped pay for all this crap except for Picard because, Patrick Stewart didn't want anything to do with yucky Canada. But so we're going to turn each episode into a riff. So you're gonna have weekly people, or actually, you know what? Just have it be a live stream. Create your own voice track and make fun of this. I would say just don't release it, but I know you're going to release it because you didn't pay any attention to anything I said last time. I said don't release it; it's going to be bad. And what happened? You released it. Did you make any money off this? No, you didn't. You had people probably cancel their thingies. Prescriptions, subscriptions, I don't know, theft, whatever you want to call it. They people left. Nobody, you didn't make any new fans over this. You lost fans. All the goodwill you got from season 3 of Picard is now gone and it's dead. So you need to just make this go away. So actually, what you need to do, Skydance, is not only preferably not release the next season, but you need to willow this shit. By that, I mean, you can't get it anywhere. No physical media, no streaming, no nothing. You could put it on the pirate seas, but honestly, why would anybody even want to steal this? Like, honestly, just make it go away. Pretend it didn't exist. At the same time, you can jettison all of Discovery, make that go away. You need to do some editing to Strange New Worlds. Basically, cut the show by 2/3. Then we can keep the 1/3 that's actually good. We can keep that. Scrap the first 2 seasons of Picard; those need to go into the dumpster. Keep the 3rd season, but call it Star Trek: The Next Generation, season 8, and then I'll be happy. And I'm going to shut up now because literally, my voice hurts.
Well, we haven't heard a great deal from Paramount or CBS or Secret Hideout as such. We've got no official, real nailed down reason for this. We do know, Gary, that the show failed to rank in the Nielsen's top 10 streaming viewership charts at any point during its first season. Now, they don't work in the same way that metrics used to, but at least once something has premiered and we've charted it over a period of time, I think 10, 12 weeks is more than enough, that pattern did establish itself. More importantly, I suppose, for those running a brand like Star Trek, just like Chris has said, Starfleet Academy was unable to match just the viewership of that previous series. Its sister show, I suppose you could say, Strange New Worlds, either when that debuted or in its current we're going into the 4th season. So it's not measuring up to even modest expectations. There are some people who watch these sort of stats and claim that it showed some initial promise in something called third-party tracking. I didn't look into that. I couldn't be bothered because to me the outcome seems fairly obvious, I suppose, that it was unable to sustain any kind of momentum for longer than a week, and its profile just became more of a joke as time went on. So, Gary, was this surprising news to you? I was pretty much certain we were going to hear this has been cancelled, but I didn't think we'd hear it for a while. What about you?
That's the thing that really surprised me is why they did this now. Because I still can't figure out. There's got to be an upside for them, and we're not talking Kurtzman. I'm talking like Ellison and Skydance and those people to do this now because this damages. Well, I mean, we already know that season 2 is damaged. Season 2 was always more than likely to get the same viewership or less than this season. But this kills it. I mean, who would be who's going to want to tune into season 2 except for YouTube
I will.
masochists like us? Because there's not going to be a season 3, there's not going to be a season 4. The general public at this point has no reason to watch this show. So I, like you, Dan, I was expecting, after season 2 aired, right after the end of it, they would go maybe like a week before the final episode. They will say, okay, this is the series finale, like they do with a lot of shows. But to do
Gary,
this,
who's going to binge the first season between now and when the second season starts on a show that they know is not going to get recommissioned anyway?
Yeah, like I said, I don't know. I mean, maybe you guys have some insight for me that I just missed. I can't figure out. There's got to be a reason why they did this now.
I have an answer, a partial answer, right? What, like, you're worried about the viewership for season 2? They're not, because they know nobody's watching it.
Right.
It's as bad as it could possibly be in terms of getting any traction. Why do it now? Maybe it's some kind of like diss against Alex Kurtzman. There's reeks of some kind of Hollywood politics to me. Right. What it is, I don't really know, but something along those lines.
You know what, Rabbi, what do you think of this? I was thinking this week, the ultimate middle finger to Kurtzman would be let them finish this season and then just dump it all at once. That would be the ultimate.
No, do not do that.
Chris would love that.
I think they will, Chris. Sorry, I think they will.
I couldn't do it.
Your way.
So just to summarize, Gary wants me dead.
Well, I am invested for series 2 because it's a requirement of my Stockholm syndrome to be cured.
Yeah, there you go.
So I have to see it through.
And supposedly it ends on a cliffhanger. Supposedly.
Supposedly, but it won't. They'll rewrite it to make sure they get a loving, touching scene. Or they could make it like the end of Blake 7, and I would cheer all the way through.
No spoilers for Blake 7. I'm only at season 2. I'm enjoying them as they come out on Blu-ray. Ben,
I will just say you're in for a treat.
You're in. Well, a treat's an interesting. That was a weird Christmas that year, right?
Yeah, it was.
But
I do want to get a bit serious though. I do find this. Please bear with me and don't shout all over me when I say this. I do find all this quite sad. Because, and I will justify what I'm about to say, hopefully, and bring it back around. I find it all quite sad because, in essence, the idea of a series around Starfleet Academy is a great idea. Okay, it is a fantastic idea to see how cadets are trained, how they progress into ensigns, and the whole training that goes behind it with respect to Starfleet and how they progress and what that beginning with. Because every time we've seen it in whatever series we've seen it, it's always been a fascinating insight into. I wonder what actually goes on there. Okay, this could be really interesting. So I think it is a really sad missed opportunity. Also, I find it bizarre, like with that British show that we don't mention, and like a lot of other shows at the moment, or series at the moment, that they grant a second season and film it before the first season has been released. And you can, I don't know if it's poorly received or if there's a few worrying sorts of bits of feedback, you've got time to tweak it, because we all know that some series take 2, maybe 3, maybe 4 series before they start hitting. Look at The Next Generation. It didn't really start hitting its stride until the 3rd season, and I don't think that's
the other day, David, how they used to run those shows for anywhere between 20 and 25 weeks, and I think there was a constant sort of going backwards and forwards with places like Variety, and to look at the ratings, look at as they were coming in, and then they would sort of adjust course as they were going along. But they don't make TV like that, do they?
And I think that's a shame as well, because. Maybe. But I don't know if your man Alex is the type of bloke that would sit down and say it's not proving popular, so, or this, we've got problems with this, got problems with that, we'll tweak it. there's also been, it was quite sad to hear that the last episode was hastily rewritten at last moment's notice. There were reports to suggest that.
The last one broadcast,
the last one we
or the
saw,
last one filmed. Oh, really?
The last one we saw, episode 10, which would indicate that it was all about people's availability, I believe, which would indicate why it's just so disjointed and there's just people talking at one another, which I found
was odd, wasn't
dull. It was odd.
I mean, another reason is because they're talentless morons who can't make TV.
There is that viewpoint,
yeah.
obviously, but I don't think that everybody in those scenes were talentless. I think they were given last-minute stuff to have to deliver, which would stretch anybody, particularly if it doesn't make sense and done in a rush. So I do find it all quite sad, and I find it that I know Chris mentioned 3 years ago that this had the potential to be a disaster. And Chris is like the Nostradamus of science fiction genres. He was right about that other British show 8 years ago. Okay, 8 years ago, and he predicted the end of times for that. And I know he doesn't take any pleasure in it, and I know he doesn't like being right about it because he's a fan of those shows. So nobody wants to be right about that. So I find it all quite sad in the way that you've got somebody who who doesn't seem to want to, or is not very good at storytelling with characters of whom are believable and characters you can invest in, and would be seeming to want to make stuff because you can see the pauses in it for clipping for social media. And I said this on the Thursday show of our sister show last night, the other night, whereby when you look at shows, they have it became a necessity to make it social media clipped bait around the COVID lockdowns. And it was particularly with a UK show called Line of Duty, which was on its 6th series. It was TX'd in the spring of 2021 when we were still in our big COVID lockdown. Nobody was in the offices. And what they essentially did is, because everybody was forced to talking it online, those online conversations became those office water cooler moments. So what they did, they found out what bits people are talking about and then clipped those bits to get people into watching that. So it now seems that people have forgotten why that came about and are now making shows for those specific clips without having the storyline to keep people engaged with.
The body of the thing itself simply isn't there and functioning, and with everything, all the nutrients going where they need to go to grow the thing to function in the way that you would have thought.
Absolutely. And I've talked about my daughter's view on Starfleet Academy, and she's 20. She's in a lesbian relationship. She's very much as Chris would describe, a Zoomer, and she is very into Zoomer things, and the show essentially was made for her. Now, my daughter loves a good story, as does my son. Her friends love good stories. They want to watch series, and they binge series that are very much story bound and tell a good story and keep you invested and want believable characters. She saw one episode of this at mine and said, if you ever have that on again when I'm here, I'm not coming again. You know, I know nobody of my age range, and anybody I know want to watch this stuff, you know, and that is from their target audience. Okay, so because she said it's just like a series of social media clips. I don't get it.
That has changed the way. Now you've mentioned it, it is broken up in a really weird way. And that could be that when we were talking about the finale in particular, I think you could be really onto something. I mean, it's clearly leaving absolutely everybody cold, whether they're the desired new audience or not. We've got this quote here that was issued, a double quote from CBS and Paramount Plus. And they said, we're incredibly proud of the ambition, passion, and creativity that went into bringing Star Trek Starfleet Academy to life. That the series introduced audiences to a bold new group of characters, welcomed familiar faces, and expanded the Star Trek universe in exciting new ways.
No, it didn't.
Were you excited by this at all, Gary? Did you find it?
No. I mean, come on. I mean, this is PR blather. I mean,
it's when you sack a sports manager.
It didn't. Yeah.
Yeah. It's much this.
Let's not overlook, rather, the fact that for whatever reason that this announcement was made now, I mean, so very soon, let's not forget how it was made. The fact that they gave an exclusive to Variety, which, one of the biggest print, entertainment, news publications still going. They could not. They
closed and things like that.
They could not have chosen a more wider expanse for this news than doing it that way. This was not buried where it was quietly canceled and you didn't hear it. This was like, making sure that this news was shouted from the proverbial mountain by doing it this way.
Gary,
so again, you have to ask yourself, why did they do it that way?
Is there a possibility that they announced it this soon because they don't want the negative press and any kind of hangover from it, Rabbi, to contaminate the window whereby they'd want to be gearing up to promoting, to launching, to premiering and screening the 4th season of Strange New Worlds, which may have its problems, but generally people do seem to respond to and to like. Do you think they want to quarterize it? What are your thoughts?
I think it's a lot to do with the Paramount buying Warner Brothers. I think there's a lot of politics going into that, and they're trying to establish themselves as being not as insanely stupid as they were. They should have just backgirled this, right? Had they listened to our advice, they probably would have given us like $100,000 bonus, right, to back. They think for saving them, right? It's I don't know. Listen, we don't. It's probably something very petty and very stupid. Hollywood politics is like that, right? It almost certainly is, and it's like maybe some assistant like is getting shit canned because it did badly. I don't know, but like, I mean, like the malfeasance that went into it. Okay, making it I can understand, right? They made it. They have a contract, Kurtzman. They don't know what they're doing. Okay. But how this got aired, like it's awful. There's nothing to recommend it whatsoever. I'm trying to think. It's
content.
Content. Oh God.
They say they wanted. We've had this story several times, Rabbi, whereby they wanted content, they wanted format to fill up those channels at the height of the streaming war, and I think now we could be seeing a purge from that, and these statements that get put out are kind of a management, obviously, but they're damage limitation. This one went on to say, we're grateful, to insist they're grateful to Alex Kurtzman, Naga Landau, Jawa Violo, and the entire cast and crew who pushed storytelling boundaries in the spirit of Gene Roddenberry's vision, Chris.
Fuck off! Fuck off! Don't mention fucking it. No, you fucking didn't, you lying fucking cunt.
Well, let's look at this. Okay, so what are we saying here?
Me, really?
We're grateful to. I can't even read this with a straight face. Okay, we're grateful to Alex Kurtzman, Noga Landau, Gay Violin, I don't know, and the entire cast and crew who pushed storytelling. What the? No, you're not great. Well, yeah, they're grateful if you like failure. Pushed storytelling boundaries. Well, yes, they did that. They put a Klingon in a dress. Who would have figured that? in the spirit of Gene Roddenberry's vision, that poor man. We're looking forward to sharing the upcoming second and final underscore that with everyone. Well, here's the thing.
All caps.
Skydance, not with everybody. No, nobody's going to watch this. Absolutely nobody's going to watch this crap. And here's the thing. When you do a certain amount of brand damage, as this has done, even though, yes, I will look forward to ripping these apart. But when you damage a brand like this, it needs to go away for a certain amount of time for people to forget what you did to it. But when you keep carrying it on, so now you're going to carry it on for another year. So we haven't even reached that reset point yet, because you're going to beat this poor dead horse with a sledgehammer for another year. And I guarantee they probably double down in the next one. And I think, everybody will be wearing dresses, and it's going to be
They should
awful.
release it exclusively on TikTok.
The most inexplicable thing about this quote to me, and all that was accomplished with this series, what exactly was accomplished with this series?
Oh, tons of people made lots of money.
They've got another 8 months to think about that. I mean, they could offer it exclusively to Pluto or to hamster porn or whatever it's called. They might snap it up. They might get lucky.
What's hamster porn? Now you got me intrigued. Is it like
All right, and I know that Chris thinks I'm doing this just to torture him, but
yes,
I'm not. I honestly think if they want to create some space between whatever they're going to come up with next and wrapping all of this up, here's what I think they should do. I'm being honest. I'm being honest. What I think they should do is they should just take all of the remaining, 16? 10 in the fourth and 6 in the all the remaining 16 episodes of Strange New Worlds and run them all back to back. Don't split them.
You're right.
Just have a 16 episode, run seasons 4 and 5 together and finish that, and then dump this all at once.
Okay,
and then that would get it all done and out there.
That
and
is
then
a terrible
that would
idea.
But Chris, they need to, as Dan just said, they need to create some space.
And visit you.
They need to create some space to let people forget.
We'll come and read you a story.
For those of us that have committed ourselves to watching this 16 hours of pure hell. Okay, so folks, I can't get if that happens, I can no longer guarantee that I will actually cover this, because my God.
There's only so much one man can do.
But do you see what the logic of what I'm talking about, though? I mean,
well, I prefer just shoot it into the sun with a cannon. Or here you go. You got the crap done right now. Just just release your work prints as they are right now and be done with it.
Save money on effects. We'll complete the effects ourselves. On whatever software we want to use, we can sort of knock those up ourselves.
Yeah, just have storyboards. Just release the storyboards and have that be.
I'll do your special effects in Paint.
I bet it's already done and locked down.
Well, the Rabbi spoke there. You spoke there, Rabbi, about politics and about a changing of ownerships and a kind of a reallocation, I suppose, of responsibilities and expectations as well, I suppose. They have spoken publicly, Paramount, obviously because it's been acquired by Skydance, so Paramount have spoken publicly about how that they've come to a decision between them. In other words, Skydance have told them that Paramount must cut costs and streamline its portfolio. They have identified Star Trek as an area of interest and a property of value, but they're not going to exclude that, are they? In fact, I think they're going to be more ruthless with that, if anything, David, because it is potentially that huge cash cow. They've also mentioned about the incongruity, I suppose, between something being Starfleet Academy was labeled by Rotten Tomatoes. It was given their certified fresh badge, their stamp of approval. So it had got this sort of on the surface, this kudos, and yet the casual audience just doesn't turn up for shows like that because they don't go to Rotten Tomatoes. If they ever did, they certainly don't now. And when they look at Paramount, they look across at Paramount's other stable of shows, Rabbi, that I think you've mentioned too, that Taylor Sheridan makes, Landman, Yellowstone.
They do well.
all those shows, Tulsa all that stuff, and they look at those and they look at Star Trek. They think something's not right here. Something's not right here.
Well, I mean, look, no TV executive, very rarely does a TV executive have any idea what to do with the show or why it's successful, why it fails, right? They have no clue. They have no clue why people watch Star Trek. They have no clue why people watch anything we watch, right? They just know that we did, and as long as you put the logo on, it should be okay, right? I mean, it's just, again, corporate malfeasance. That's what we're seeing over and over again. And honestly, I think it's got a lot to do with DEI, right? Once people in power who have no business being there, they're going to make stupid decision after stupid decision after stupid decision. But you know, for me, I don't know if this show got any worse than the first episode when they arrived in San Francisco and they played "Are You Going to San Francisco?" That was the cringiest thing ever. I think it was more cringy than
a really weird version of it. And that's the thing. If you're gonna, maybe they couldn't get the rights for the original version.
Oh god, it was awful.
And the issue lies, I believe, with. I think it's. Can I put the F word in there? Formula. If you've got the formula or recipe for a successful series, we have them in Britain. We still have them in Britain. We've currently got The Capture, Line of Duty, Death in Paradise, Beyond Paradise, Return to Paradise, those sorts of different detective-based genres. We do have really good drama and really good series put out, but they have established a formula. And once they find that formula that the public really latch onto, they go, wow, okay, let's keep it to the formula. We can move characters around within the formula and get different types of characters in, but we stick to the formula that's successful. Now, Star Trek, the original series, had 3 seasons of that formula that worked, and which was Wagon Train in the stars. And yes, you had your main characters, and by and large, apart from Spock's brain, by and large, you had, and a few others, you had some really, really good formulaic television that made its way to the movies, and the first one had its problems, and then Harve Bennett came on and re-established a formula. That formula was very successful, and then the next generation started, and it took a while for that formula to get established. And then from that formula, it was then able to be transposed to Deep Space Nine, which took it a different way, but still had that core formula, and Voyager and Enterprise. But behind it, you still had the core essence of what made those shows successful. If you start buggering about with that formula and keep the badge on it, people are going to notice. And if you aren't shit hot with the storytelling and the character and the fact that you're starting to have modern speech in it and colloquialisms, you're taking away from that formula and just kicking it into touch. Now, with the problem is that if you then add to it people of whom may have not written for or really grasp that formula and aren't seeing the homework of other writers that are also writing for that, you get disjointed threads, and those threads become ribbons, and it all goes from there. So I just think that people and I've said this with other franchises, I believe that people should just get back to what has made this successful in the past. The fact that people see it as an escapism from what's going on in modern day events, and let's try and stick to that formula like season 3 of Picard did. Do a little bit of fan service as well. Not too much, but just a little bit, just to get people re-engaged.
It was David.
and
It was right. It was right under their. It was right under their noses for years, for literally years. What to do at a sharp 90-degree angle to turn this around. They must have known. They must have known they were in trouble. When I say they, I mean Alex Kurtzman and basically anybody who'd associate with this idiot. Here we've got a quote here from Alex Kurtzman and Noga Landau. They said, "We are in post-production now on what will be the second and final season. We're so proud of all of this stuff. It's all the same words, rearranged into a different order. We're so proud of what we've accomplished together on this show, and the world will get to see the work of these extraordinary artists when season 2 airs." But this is the statement. This is the 4 words to fill us with dread. "We will finish strong," he says.
No, you won't. No, you won't.
Strong. I mean, they should have started fairly strong, I think. But because you're quite right, David. You know what you've just summed up in a nutshell there. There's a proof of concept time after time after time after time. The Star Trek shows should start strong and get stronger and stronger and stronger. It shouldn't be we shouldn't be looking at it and thinking, oh yeah, but a show 30 odd years ago, that took a little while as well. It's not the 80s anymore. Brands aren't the way they were then, or even in the 90s. Most of these hard and fast rules that people clutch onto, particularly in this fandom, they just don't apply in 2026, and some of them are for good, and some of them are for ill. But they are realities nonetheless. And this fucking moron, how he's managed to hide himself away. God, it's so like a secret hideout. He calls his production company, and this has been a hideaway from a largely untalented man to beaver away, kind of desecrating something that he had no business anywhere near, and redirecting the legacy of, yes, Roddenberry himself was a flawed man, had plenty of failures, but my God, at least his vision of the future and his concept of how to put together a show like this was tangible. And this moron somehow keeps hanging on in there, like in the same way that characters like Kathleen Kennedy do. It's as if he must have some incriminating negatives somewhere concerning someone. But just reading this from him, it's a word salad, but it's just that last sentence. You think, if there's any of this that's been added by this dickhead, it'll be that bit. And you think, oh, just fuck off, Kurtzman. Fuck off.
Yeah, can I interject for a second? I'm gonna have to bow out, I'm afraid. I can't keep my eyes open. Like, I am so and you moved the show for me, and I feel really, really guilty.
That's okay.
Right? But I've been. Before I go though, I have a Star Trek question. I thought of it the other day, and I thought I got to ask it when I'm on the stream. Star Trek 2. You mentioned the Star Trek movie. Star Trek is awesome.
Star Trek 2.
Yeah, okay, they're doing the tour of the Enterprise at the beginning, right? And they're looking around, and and they asked, was it Kirk asked Scotty, how are you? He said, "Hey, I had a wee bout, Captain, but the doctor pulled me through." And he said, "Wee bout?" He said, "Shore leave."
That's right.
What's Scotty saying? He had space clap, right? Because that's how I always interpreted it.
He liked the alcohol, well established, and I have a feeling he got up to some randiness. Now, as much as we love Scotty,
that's not.
We don't want to picture that.
I don't know.
No, come on, no, that just that meant that.
I'm pleased you mentioned Star Trek 2 because in that meeting when he's being introduced to the cadets, the director, was it Nicholas Meyer?
Yes.
Cut out the first meeting of the introduction of Scott introducing his nephew, who was the guy who later died.
Peter Preston. Yes.
Peter Preston, who appears on the bridge holding, and you just think, as moving as the scene is, it becomes even more moving and means more when you see it reinserted.
That's why they added it back for the different later cuts.
Yeah,
if you watch the uncut version, because the movie originally ran long, it needed to be cut down for theaters. Even as it was a masterpiece. When you look at how much they cut out, that was one storyline where you watch the original one, it's like, okay, it hits you a little bit, but then when you see like everything that was shot for that. There's additional scenes between Kirk and Spock that drive home the end of that movie even further.
Okay, the bit they cut out in England, which like blew my mind, was the bit where I didn't see this. I was like in my 30s or 40s. Was a bit where the creature comes out of Chekhov's ear. They cut.
Oh
that
yeah,
out.
that had to be banned.
Oh, really?
Well, that's because they banned everything in the UK anymore.
I
because
know.
they
I was like, I
They
was
put
like,
creatures
also-
in our bodies. Yeah.
Yeah, they
All
put
my
creatures
favorite
into our
movies
body.
were banned
Right,
in the UK.
okay, I got to put my body into bed. I don't want to excite anyone. Okay,
Good-
just
Good night,
this is
mate.
just an exhibition, please, people. No wagering, please, no wagering.
God
Take
bless
care.
you.
Dan, I'm
Look
so
after
sorry. I
yourself.
really am. I
It's
really
okay.
feel bad, but I got to go to bed.
Look after yourself. Good luck with
Take
everything.
care,
Speak to
Richard.
you soon, mate. Speak to you soon. We've got this quote here from Robert Picardo, talking of the future of Star Trek. There will be no new Star Trek for a while, and then Star Trek will come
Yep.
back.
That's
I
true.
think the show will be viewed and valued as a real gem in the future. He's talking about Starfleet Academy there. Eventually, the pendulum always swings back towards Star Trek's original core values. So he's of the belief that Starfleet Academy does represent a pure translation, I suppose, of Roddenberry's.
if you're on crack,
Again, Robert Picardo, he's very, very biased. He's the most biased person who's talking about this. And as I say, whilst I do like the fact that he's being very, very loyal, I just think he comes across as, I don't know, I just think he'd be better off keeping his counsel for a few months, supporting his colleagues perhaps privately, because the more he speaks, I think that people lose a little respect for him. And I don't want to see that, because I do like this man. And I thought he was great most of the time, apart from when he was singing opera. I thought he was great in Starfleet Academy. And I don't want to think bad of this guy. But I think he's sort of entering the fray and joining combat when he needn't do so. I've been asked also to play this against my better judgment. So we're going to tap into the view screen before we get to take some comments. I'm going to tap into the view screen in a little while. But first of all, let's get her off, shall we?
What's happening, people? This is Gina Yashere, aka Laura Thock. I assume you've heard the news by now that Starfleet Academy is not going to be coming back for season 3. Obviously, gutted.
it isn't Plumpy.
I thought we made an amazing.
What was that, mate?
I said, no, it isn't Plumpy. Plumpy's bitter. Plumpy's very bitter. Maybe it's because she got cut out of half of the season because she ate Portly Dan.
Do you think, as I do, that she is holding back the rage? Keep watching.
Oh yeah.
show. The first season was fantastic, and we just finished shooting season 2. And I can say season 2 is even better. We just kept building on that platform we made. And in my humble opinion, I think it.
Chris, you seem to be not taking her claims of greatness and of improvement particularly seriously. Do you think she might be talking bollocks?
I think Plumpy is very sad. How Plumpy? How badly do you have to suck to be cut out of half the season of this show? Like, seriously, dude.
It was one of the best first seasons of Star Trek made. But hey, the haters are going to come on here and disagree, but I'm not here to fight with you right now.
She's not here to fight with you, Gary. Yeah. The fact that you've watched every episode of Star Trek ever made, probably multiple times, and she's likely seen it 3 times in 30 years. Yeah,
all right. If we stopped right now and just ranked the first seasons of every Star Trek series, I guarantee you that Starfleet Academy would not be number 1.
Okay, Plumpy. Here, okay, so best first season? No, you suck. Okay, so best first seasons. The best first season is the original series.
Yes,
Nothing else has come close.
Yeah.
After that, oh dear God, I'm now
Deep Space Nine.
realizing. Well, no, they're all better than, but out of the
I would say Deep Space Nine.
Yeah, DS9, probably Enterprise. Well, no, the first half, then it goes to crap.
Yeah.
Voyager, I don't like, so I'm biased, so I'll just stay out of that one. The first season of TNG, in retrospect, is terrible, although I liked it at the time. The first episode of Discovery gave us hope. Then they killed off the only good character and made her go hammy. Strange New Worlds actually had a good season opener, which gave us hope. Then we saw what happened. The first season of Picard was terrible, but not as bad as this. No, Plumpy, you're the worst. Like, there's some even Encounter at Farpoint, and nobody likes that. That's leagues ahead of you. You suck. What happened? You suck, and you got kicked off your own show. Sorry, Plumpy. You did not like. I'm trying to think of a first season of any show that's as bad as this.
Let's hear her explain herself a little more.
I just want to say that it was an absolute honor and a privilege and a pleasure working in the Star Trek universe. I loved every second of playing Laura Thok, and I'm sad that you're not going to get to see more of her story and the story of all the characters as we built them out. The cast, the crew, the costume department, the prosthetics department, the lighting, writers, exec producers, and directors.
We get it, love.
We had the most amazing team of people bringing this beautiful show to you, and I'm sad
You
for
had
all
the
of
most
them.
impressive DEI list.
Yeah, all these amazing people. It's a pity a few more of them couldn't have been in front of the camera where we could see
As
them.
well as you guys out there. My overwhelming feeling right now is gratitude.
Rage.
I am grateful for having been part of this whole universe. I had no idea of the Star Trek universe till I got in it, and now
Can I make the
Okay, there you go. She had no idea about the Star Trek universe before she got on this show, but yet she knows that this was the best first season of any Star Trek series ever.
Thirded because I heard Dan make the same point. Yeah, absolutely thirded. I beg me for being a pedant, but if I didn't know anything about the universe beforehand, and then I made a series that I was involved with, then it is quite likely that I would say that that was the best. When I was not able to compare it with stuff that had gone before, it's a slightly, can I just say, it's a very partisan comment.
And Gina Yashere, did anyone ever actually get around to telling you that your character should not exist? There's no way for your character to exist.
Well, Gary, that would involve that the people behind this did any research into real Star Trek other than what they found on the Google. They got every episode has many. This whole thing is one big plot hole.
I suspect that Gina may finish strong. Let's listen to her.
I am hooked, I tell you, hooked.
Oh, you're hooked on something here.
I truly hope and believe that this is not the end of Star Trek.
Oh, it is.
The message of Gene Roddenberry is still so apt and so needed right now, and I hope Star Trek will come back in the future, continuing the same legacy. Obviously, the world is still not ready to hear the message of love, peace, infinite diversity, acceptance, the eschewing of violence and senseless wars. We're not ready to hear that message yet, and hopefully one day we will be, and Star Trek will be back stronger than ever.
The message.
And preferably with the same message and not completely whitewashed.
Oh, dear God. Whitewashed? You had one character in here that would qualify as white. It was Toxic Timmy, and he was a blue Smurf.
The world was not ready for Gene Roddenberry's message, and yet somehow this franchise has persevered for 6 decades, even though the world was not ready to hear this viewpoint. Okay, Gina, we got it.
Let's take a look back.
I'm guessing that Plumpy has never watched. Okay, so Plumpy, you've obviously never watched Deep Space Nine, which premiered 33 years ago. No, 33 years ago. Jesus Christ, 33 years ago, with the non-white captain. You never watched the Voyager, which premiered 31 years ago with the first female captain. Gina didn't watch any of this. Gina's very mad. Gina's not going to have a career after this.
Multiple non-white, Chris, there's multiple non-white actors too as part of the cast of Voyager. Different ethnicities we see.
First Native American
throughout all of these shows, realistically, and even when we look back to the original series, obviously we look, and Uhura may have been the sole black cast member of the original Star Trek cast. We do have George Takei. We do have, if you watch most episodes of TOS, there's lots of crew members of different ethnicities.
Actually, Dan, one important thing
people.
that they forget, Richard Daystrom, who invented the computer system on the Enterprise. Now, granted, they did a very bad thing with his character in that episode, but in the Ultimate Computer in 1968, the inventor of the ships or the systems that the Enterprise was using. That is terrifying. But was a black dude. Although, yes, what they did with him, though, he goes crazy in the end. They probably shouldn't have done that. But at least the intention was there. Then, of course, the next year they said women can't be captains. Yes, that's a little problematical. But no, if you look at Star Trek, I'm like, you had this back in the 60s, Plumpy. I don't even think Plumpy even knows there was an original series.
No.
I don't think Plumpy knows anything existed before Discovery.
The insinuation that Star Trek was ever a whitewashed vision of the future, I think, is beyond the pale, quite frankly. And this woman should be pilloried for putting this out
she's
there.
like, open mouth, reveal ignorance.
A foaming moron. That's the impression that I get. And yes, I didn't like her performance. I've never found her funny as a stand-up comedian, but I've never heard her speak on her socials before. And sometimes you speak as you find. And I'm sure that she seems disappointed, but she also seems fucking seething with rage underneath all of this. She comes across as thoroughly unlikable, absolutely entitled, pig ignorant about the things that she's speaking about, and she ends on what I think could be received as a massive insult on anybody who's ever made Star Trek before, and a great many of the people who've been following it for X amount of years, be it 10 years, 20 years, 30 years or longer. I think this is beyond the pale, and this woman shouldn't be anywhere near the show ever again. They should cut her out of not just the episodes that are to come, but everything that she's been in so far.
There's an off or not very. It used to be used often, but there's a saying which is less is more, and you find dignity in silence. And when people have lost their roles before, or jobs, or things like that, especially in sport, and people, and it is a results-based industry, as is entertainment. You still don't see people giving it all that. Sometimes they do, if they're particularly interesting characters. Will do their own book or their own sort of reaction of being dropped, or shows not being renewed or cancelled. But by and large, there is this sort of I'm not going to say much about it until they feel they want to. And it's become a sort of thing whereby if things are cancelled now, or like series, or people lose their jobs because of poor results or things not doing as well as they anticipated, that they have a little bit of a rant. And you get your corporations who aren't able to do that. Hence why they come up with that sort of very much sort of divorce-like statement, as the BBC did about the other British show that we don't talk about, and they're parting from Disney. It was a very respectful sort of we're getting divorced, but they're fantastic people sort of statements, and there is that sort of that dignity. And I maybe it's just me, maybe I'm old-fashioned, but I don't see the point actually in doing all these sort of videos of people showing.
I'll summarize this video.
I think it's born out of initially, Gary. I think it's born out of, to answer David's question, I think it's born out of genuine solidarity and feeling like you should say something. But of course, at one point, not that long ago, really, an actor or a writer, but particularly actors, would have probably have run it past their agent, even before speaking to a journalist outside of a restaurant or Harrods or somewhere, before saying a single word. Now they instantly react in the same way that most human beings do, is they hit the socials. There's a little bit more from Gina to come, and then we can sort of wrap her up.
Okay.
Anyway, I'm forever grateful for the opportunity to be part of the Star Trek world. And I know there were true Trekkies out there that love the show. And I hope to see you guys again in the future. I'll still be out there doing the conventions, and if you guys will have me.
Oh, good.
And I'll see you guys around. Live long and prosper.
Bye, Plumpy.
I would for the most of that rant, I would summarize it as, I'm available, somebody please hire me.
Good luck.
But you're right, Dan. The fact that people the one thing that social media and cell phones have done is they've eliminated the ability of people to pause and take a breath before they say anything. It's basically all instant. It's like, where's my phone? Let me post something. No thought is required. No consideration of, is this the prudent thing to do? Maybe I should just kind of think before I speak. No, that's out anymore.
It comes back down to writing that email when you've had bad news and you feel like you need to vent. I was always told, and I have always followed this, mostly because I learned the hard way. I now follow this, is that you write out that email, but you don't press send. You may want to record that video.
Yeah.
Record that video, but don't publish it. Sleep on it, come back to it, and then think about the consequences of that, particularly if you want to progress in an organization or you want further work. Because one thing that I learned very, very early on is that if you're going for a job interview, if you spend half that interview dissing the previous place that you worked at, you're not going to get that job because they will not want to employ you because they might go, troublemaker. But the situation lies with, I do understand that they were invested, and that's great. I would expect them to be invested, because if you're not invested in a show and you're in it or you're working for it, then what the hell are you doing in that show? It requires maximum effort, maximum investment. Totally get that. But when you're actually putting out angry stuff after it, or passionate stuff after it, perhaps, as Gary has said, for me, what I would have done if that had been me, and I would have been one of the actors, I would have said, yeah, okay, I had a good run, thoroughly enjoyed working in it, hope to see you around at the conventions. We're obviously proud of what we did.
David, I think that is the key. I think that is the key. The fact that she acknowledges sort of conventions and the fan world, I think that could go part of the way to explaining what Gary was pointing to, and this sort of weird halfway thing we've got between somebody trying to sound professional and actually seething with rage as well. Because Gina Yashere uses social media. She has this sort of two-way channel of communication with her audience all the time. So immediately, of course, she would have been hit with a wave of, oh, I can't believe they're doing this. Oh, poor, we're sorry that the show is going. That's what will have hit her right away. And I think that's what this was probably a response to. A minority of people, but telling her what she wanted to hear. Because I've been looking at the general reactions to this, and there was amongst content creators within an hour of this story breaking. I mean, one of our esteemed competition out there promoted their live stream response simply like this. A bunch of absolute clowns who spent the best part of 2 hours on their show pretty much vilifying people like, or everybody here on this panel, and a large percentage of the people in the chat. So quite frankly, right back at you. I can't stand this kind of fan of any show to this sort of tribalist mentality and the idea that the wrong people have won. Well, fuck you right back. There's some good humoured stuff out there. Of course, there is lots of memes. The memes have been very strong, Gary. That's not going to surprise you any more than it did me. And of course, AI has raised meme game considerably, which is one thing I think we can be grateful to it for there. So we've got several absolute blinders poking fun at the cast.
Well, actually, one thing I should add, though, even though his character is probably the funniest thing to ever grace the screen, Apparently, I can't remember his name, but the guy that plays Brittany there on the screen, apparently he did the opposite of what Plumpy did, and just I can't remember the statement, but more or less he was like, I enjoyed working on the show because I think he wants to work again. So I'm assuming somebody had a discussion with him. Basically, don't do what Plumpy did. So at least in that statement, he tried to be gracious. But Plumpy,
in terms
good luck.
for all of Gina Yashere's blather there was only one word that really mattered that tells you all you need to know was whitewash. That was the only word in all that she said that mattered.
That's why she brought her face closer to the screen to make sure we heard that part louder than any other part. Yep. And that's what I find. I think that is very telling. I don't want to worry you, Chris. I can't see this going anywhere. But as well as the memes, we did get the inevitable meager attempt to get this recommissioned. So a petition was launched. Can you spare a minute to help the campaign to save Starfleet Academy? I mean, the irony is this AI picture of Starfleet Academy, if the show would have looked a bit more like this, we've got some hot chicks, we've got some great spaceships, we've got a building that looks like something out of one of the shows we recognize, uniforms that are perfectly reasonable, perfectly appropriate, bright sunny days, and aspiration. If the show would have been like this, it wouldn't have been fucking cancelled, you muppets, would it? So I can't see this going anywhere. I think we will be fine, Chris.
Well, I think this is hilarious.
Chris, you signed that, didn't you?
Oh well, I'm a secret fan of this show. I love it, but no, it's kind of because they're like, oh well, this worked for the original series. Yes, because the original series was good and people liked it.
Yeah.
And then they did this with Enterprise twice. Well, yes, they did it after season 3 when it was about to be canceled. When it got good, I was a part of that one back in the Stone Ages. Then they did it again after season 4. We lost that one. But here's the thing. Enterprise actually improved. It got really damn good in season 3, and we didn't want to see it go away, and we didn't want to see it go away after season 4. And, it's back in the day, I was all over both those campaigns. Nobody wants to see this. Even the people that pretend to like this show don't like this show. Here's what you have to realize about these people, folks. It's all an act. They're all desperate to fit in because they're losers. So they're all desperate to fit in with their crowd of degenerates. None of them like each other. None of them this is objectively a terrible show. They don't actually like the show. They just want to fit in. It's like that British show, and that explains so much of the past decade. They're all what we back in the day would have called posers. They don't like it. They just pretend to like it. That's where
just checked. The petition is on. The petition is. I'll put the link in the live chat for our private one. For at the time of now on broadcast, it's at 12,579, having run since the 23rd of March.
Okay. What was the So Enterprise was considered bad in terms of viewership. It still got viewers in the millions. I think in season 3, when it almost got canceled, it did drop below 1 million, which was a disaster. But it was only near the end. Unfortunately, it was only diehards watching that show, which was me. Even though I skipped episodes of Voyager, I did not skip any episodes for the last 2 seasons of Enterprise. It was brilliant. That's your niche audience. You have a core audience, I would say, for that British show and this show. You have Star Trek has a massive fan base. It is also an older fan base than that British show, because that British show gained most of its fans between 2005 and probably around 2013-ish. Yeah. It has the boomers that grew up with the show. It's primarily a Gen X and older millennial show, because most people became fans or younger fans between 1987 and 2005, maybe a little bit earlier. New Star Trek did not really gain any fans, but Star Trek has a massive fan base. It has one of the most loyal fandoms, I think, in existence, because yes, that British show chased everyone away. Star Trek, as bad as it's been, sort of that toxic fandom element, it's only one faction. Most real Star Trek fans are still there. Those of us that grew up with the classic series and everything up to 2005. You have millions of people that are diehard Star Trek fans, have been for decades, and you could only get 12,000 to sign your petition to bring this show back. When, in theory, if Star Trek fans adopted this, you would have millions. And I'm sure some of those people probably signed because it's comedy to them because it is that bad. 12,000, and it's been up for a week. Nobody wants this.
It's not good. It's definitely not good. We've got some comments to get to in the live chat. There's quite a lot of people commenting and watching, so I think we should go and take some of those, see where they're at with this before we move on completely. But before we do, let's cleanse ourselves somewhat with a touch of these. Oh, I mean her.
I need you to stop staring at me like that.
Yeah, good luck with that, love. Good luck with that. Welcome back to Warp Drive. We are live and we are raw and we are surveying the crash damage of the latest live-action Star Trek TV show. We've got some fabulous comments there in the live chat. Thank you, everybody, for all of it. We're going to get stuck into some of it now. Defiant Fox has joined us there on YouTube and asks, please tell me, is this for the hardcore and normal Trekkies, not those woke gay clowns? Do you mean this show, Warp Drive, or do you mean their show? Do you mean Starfleet Academy? Because this show, it's fine. I mean, we won't answer for our orientation. That's for our own private business. But we're certainly we're not. None of us are woke. No. So you're okay with us. This is the conservative, free-speaking Star Trek show out there. There's none others that I'm. Yeah, there is none others. Basically, it's a infuriatingly woke fandom, and God bless them if that's what they want to do. If that's the things that they believe, and that's what they want to say. But the fact is, there should be open forum for everybody to have their view, everybody to speak to one another. Closing down of speech is the road to hell, as far as I'm concerned. So here we are bringing the balance, Defiant Fox. So come and join us by all means. Oh, I think that's going down quite well. Okay, so let's look at some more comments. We have, who's here? Who's saying what? Stephen Braddock was in fairly early. Sard Academy. I've had my own 60th anniversary Star Trek. He's been rewatching the movies, and Star Trek continues, and having a blast there in the live chat. Good for you, mate. Good for you. You'll be very happy with what we've got planned for the rest of the year. Squat Trek, says Matthew Panda. Squat Trek. I think that's the meme we had earlier on of Captain Mumbles sat aloft her chair like Spider-Man, wasn't she? That's pretty good. He's been shouting again, says Matthew Panda. I think that could be you, Chris. I think he could be talking about you.
He's always shouting.
Yes, I was shouting again. I'm the shouting man.
I did want to ask you, Chris, because as you're affectionately known as and self-referenced as the Trigger Train, with respect to the latest one that you've been shouting at, because I like my locomotives, okay, are we talking of the Venice Simpleton Orient Express type of Trigger Train, or more like a bullet train like the Japanese have? What sort of locomotive type of Trigger Train is your latest video?
I would say in this case, the trigger. I can't talk. I would say the Trigger Train became a proctologist and went up a certain jackass's ass like a power drill.
Oh, that's not
okay.
I just came up with that now off the top of my head.
He's lost for words. Boomer 444 says it's unbingeable. You know what? I think Starfleet Academy could be the cure for anybody who thinks that they're addicted to binge watching shows. Gary, you get them a start on this. I think they'll soon rediscover the great outdoors. I think that could happen. But Boomer wants a ship goes into space, meets aliens, near fatal episodes, one semi-hot chick, one bad guy, no diversity. We get enough aliens to diversify anything. And some good writers.
There you go.
The principle behind what we say here, and lots of the people that we know who make content, has always been: there's nothing wrong with diversity. What we were always against was forced diversity and DEI. That's a very different prospect.
Yes.
The fact is, Star Trek diverse from day one. If we want to look purely at cosmetically, but that doesn't make great.
And the other problem, Dan,
endured.
Well, the other problem, Dan, is that this whole thing was orchestrated by somebody who proudly proclaimed, I'm not really interested in Star Trek. I'm here to tell, my agenda stories, my diversity stories. Same as the other guy in the other show that we don't mention on Saturdays, who made it clear that he was here for the message.
And it worked out great.
When you look at these various people who hold similar positions in various shows all over the world, I mean, I'd love to know about some of the shows that aren't English speaking. Do they have showrunners who are massive cocks as well? Because I don't speak the language, I don't know the sort of things that they are saying. Maybe they are. Unturned Stone 44 says here, there is 75 of Star Trek's fandom. You just sparked in caps. Can somebody translate? Is that a good thing or a bad thing?
What does that mean?
You have to fill us in on stuff because I can't. I'm 50, so some of these things are going to be lost on me.
Ironically, have we gone back to Darmok? Kurtzman when the sets fell. I'm not sure on that one.
Honestly, and this is actually why I'm actually still, in the face of the unending storm of crap that has come our way over the last 10 years, I'm actually still overall optimistic for, after a long break, the future of this franchise as well as the other franchise, because what killed them both, the other one and this one, is trying to turn it into something it never was. For the other one, trying to turn it into agenda-driven fantasy, which that show never was. And for this one, trying to turn it into a diversity machine instead of just telling good adventure stories and good science fiction stories with characters we love exploring the galaxy. So trying to transform it into away from its core nature killed them both. If you get back to that, I actually think, and with talented people who have the right motivation, I actually think there's a future for both franchises.
I think there is for one of them. I think Star Trek can come back because Star Trek still has a very loyal fandom. There are diehard Star Trek fans that aren't going anywhere regardless of what they've done.
Also, Chris, Star Trek can change hands. The other one can't. They're never
going
to let it go.
The problem with the other one, Dan, it's not so much what was on there. The fandoms have a lot to do with it. Star Trek fans are like the old school Star Trek fans are still there. They sat through this crap. The problem with that British show, and I've dealt with this more than anyone, is not just what's on TV, but the elitist fandom of that show. What's left of them, which is 5%, is toxic to the core. And on top of what was on screen,
it's become cult-like,
chased away all the legitimate fans, and they've turned the whole experience around that British show. The word toxic doesn't begin to describe the past decade, because
the writer Graham Linehan has been talking a little about the other show in the last 2 or 3 days over on X, and I get the impression he's not a geek at all. The guy very prolific comedy writer for nearly 30 years until he was cancelled and lost pretty much all his work and had to start over. But he was, if a man like him, and I'm sure he's aware of the cultural relevance of that show, he mentions it in the post, but he says that this is famously the most toxic of all fandoms, and this is somebody who exists outside of our world for all intents. And I think if it makes it through to somebody like that, who frankly has got other things, better things to do, and has been frying far bigger fish, then that really does say something about that show. And I think you're right. I think now I'm thinking about it, you're quite right. There is a difference between those two fandoms that separates it too from the Star Wars fandom, which I think are a very particular kind of person as well. I think there is more difference there than I realized. Let's take some more comments. Let's take some more comments from people. Trump said he wants to be the next Star Trek captain and take over the universe. According to Boomer 444, it was sign me up. I'm there.
Yep.
Clocking in for duty, Captain. Aye, whenever you're on, whatever station he says I'm going on, I'll be fine, David. I'll be there with my sleeves rolled up. I'll be doing the lot.
I'm not a fan of that, so I'll say no more.
You know, if he does the thing with he's got really little hands, isn't he? If he does all that, I'd be down for that. Moondust 977. I'm just going to leave out the numbers. Moondust says another favourite sci-fi show, trashed and burned. How do they keep letting this happen? I think
hashtag Buffy dodged a bullet.
And Jay Frears there, one of the Greybeards. Is that a beard? I think it's a beard. Coping hard, all of them. Shit can season 2 and save us all. Based. Red 6 Down steps in with this. Another new name. Sci-fi is supposed to be an ideal future. Star Trek is optimistic. You are missing the point. Everything has politics. Look, we'd find it a lot easier to get your point, my friend, if there was just a touch of grammar in this. Thank you for the comment. Red 6 Down is suggesting that everything has politics in it, and we should accept that because this is part of an optimistic vision. Accept it has hierarchy and factions, and it's political. We're not disputing any of that at all. I know that this comment was made a little time ago. If you've been listening to us, you'll know we're not disputing any of that. We are pointing to the fact that this has been badly written, badly acted, badly made, and offered to us with prejudice. So
the big difference, Red 6 Down, between this particular show and a lot of Kurtzman Trek and the good Trek up to 2005 is those series and those writers didn't start with the politics and then try to weld a story to justify it. They came up with a good story, and whatever political viewpoint or idea, which was offered not to tell us how to think, but just for our consideration. That's also important. Whatever political ideas were there to underscore the story. Now they start with the politics, and they use a story, and then everything else is secondary. That's the difference.
Well, there's a second part to that as well, Gary. I think when real Star Trek, which I classify 66 through 2005.
Yes.
When there was a political question, when that did come up, even if it was more of a central focus and say more in one episode than another, the approach to all real Star Trek series was basically a question. Is this right or is this wrong? And in most cases, it was ambiguous. It was left up to the audience to decide. I recently, a couple of weeks ago, trying to cleanse myself of my 10 weeks in hell, I watched let that be your last battlefield. Star Trek, the original series, one of the final episodes from the last season. And it was the same thing. It's like, it didn't even necessarily propose an answer. It showed you consequences of two sides fighting. And in that episode, they didn't even really clarify what either side was fighting against. They just hated each other's side, and one's white on the right side, one's white on the left side, so forth. And then it showed the consequences of what can happen when you don't resolve differences. They burned their whole planet down. And Star Trek: The Next Generation, I think mainly Patrick Stewart before he went insane, or I'd say more accurately, the way Captain Picard was written, where one of the things that makes Star Trek TNG one of the strongest series and Picard one of the strongest captains in the way he was written and the way he was portrayed by Patrick Stewart with the massive oratory skills is Picard would present the problem in a way that makes sense, and they didn't always have the answer. In many episodes, you would end with Picard staring out his window in his ready room. Did we do the right thing? I don't know. Deep Space Nine, when they force or when they trick the Romulans into joining the Dominion War,
Right.
Was this right? I don't know. It might be because it saved lives. When Scott Bakula in season 3 tortures a captive for information, is this right or is it wrong? The fate of the entire universe is at stake. So no, it posed questions and it left the answers open. Real Star Trek never sought to lecture to the audience, because as soon as it started lecturing to the audience, it completely misses the point of what the show was about. It was about asking questions.
Do you remember though, Chris? A lot of drama, but particularly the Star Trek shows, I think if you're looking at genre stuff, particularly Star Trek, was never afraid of a quieter moment where there was no dialogue at all, and it would just leave something to play on an actor's face. And depending on how skilled they were, they would be able to convey so much in context of what we'd seen running up to that point. Whether it was, sometimes it would be at the middle point of an episode, or sometimes it, just as you say, it would be right at the very end. You think, okay, he's going to be thinking about that, or she's going to be thinking about that for however long. And oftentimes we would go away and we think about the whole episode, the entirety of what we just consumed, and we'd wait up and think, what would we do? Where would that go? And sometimes those stories would get picked up again. I mean, more often than not, they would on Deep Space Nine. Sometimes they get picked up again. Sometimes they wouldn't. But that sort of notion, the kernel of an idea, or the seed of something was sort of planted, and you would think about these things. And obviously, if you watch it again, you might think, oh, I remember this one. I remember how it made me feel. How do I feel about it now? So that's what evergreen material.
Well, Dan, here's the strongest example of that is in The City on the Edge of Forever, which is largely considered to be perhaps not only one of the best episodes of Star Trek ever made, but one of the best episodes of television ever made. And that alone shows you that William Shatner is not a bad actor. The question that's posed in that is, he falls, they go back in time through the Guardian of Forever, which was bastardized in Discovery, but the Guardian of Forever, they go back in time. Captain Kirk falls in love with Edith Keeler, and then they find out that Edith Keeler must die or Germany captures the world during the Second World War. And so you have that scene where he has to let Keeler die by getting hit by the car as she's walking across the street. The performance from William Shatner done, there's no dialogue. Just the look on his face after he's realizing what he's done, and then McCoy asks what happened, and do you know what you just did, Jim? And Spock is like, he knows, Doctor, he knows. Happened again in Star Trek 3 when Kirk's son is killed. But specifically,
I only have to think about that scene and I choke up.
It's like, that's what Star Trek is about. It's about making decisions to do the right thing, not for ideological purposes. And that's what Star Trek's about. That's what. And
even in Voyager, and I know I'm still lagging in the third series, but I am aware because I did see. Thanks, mate. I've seen it. I'm aware of the rest of the series, so you can put spoilers in there because I know what happens. But there are two things that I'm just going to come up to, but one I've already seen again, which is the whole dilemma of Tuvix, when Neelix and Tuvok merge into one being, both sharing all their thoughts, and Janeway is then faced with the decision of whether or not to restore two of them back to their individual constituent parts. The Doctor says he refuses to help because it's against his sort of oath, and Janeway makes a decision about whether or not to bring them back as two constituent parts, and it's made up to her. And then obviously the alliance with the Borg against species 8472, in the principle that your enemy is my enemy too. So we'll enter into an alliance to defeat the somebody even worse, sort of thing. And it's the thing that I as a viewer, and I can't speak for every viewer, but this is my perspective on it. We
demand you speak for every viewer now, young man.
Okay, all right, okay, but I think, okay, if I may be as bold, I think people respond better as an audience when they are forced to think, what would I do in this situation? What decision would I make? How would I react? Rather than be lectured to, because if we're lectured to, it's a case of.
But to be honest,
right,
David,
okay,
I don't think it's even that example against that other. I think it's any other example. I think even if something just pleasantly entertains us, that's all well and good, and we might remember that it sort of didn't affect our week in any sort of adverse way. But I think if you plant something in the way that you described in the first instance, I think people, and you almost certainly think about that for far longer afterwards. And I think you make a mental note to watch that show next time.
Yeah.
And I know that it's things dropping on different days has changed things, but I think the principle of that has kind of largely continued. People make a note of when something drops. Oh, is it Strange New Worlds Day? Is it Landman Day? Whatever the show is that you're watching, I think people just remember it. You might put it on your phone, like a thing on your phone, Gary. Like to get your phone to remind you this drops at 6 a.m. or whatever else. I think that lines up with what David says. I mean,
I know
lecturing stuff. We all, I think that's the other side to that. I think, Dave, where people actively are sort of like, whoa, it's like rebarbative. It's like, whoa. People
I know that
very kind of.
I don't know if this is true of you, Dan, but I know like for the last 2 months on Thursdays, it was more like, it's Thursday.
Oh, wow.
For you,
more often than not. More often than not.
It's Academy Thursday.
I mean, it's like the show I'm watching at the moment, which I would heartily recommend. It's a third season called The Capture on BBC and available on the iPlayer. The next episode 4 drops tomorrow. And it's a sort of political MI5 counterterrorism, MI6, CIA sort of is what you see. It is what you see on CCTV images actually what you're seeing, and are they real life in time edited, and various heinous things goes on. So it's a bit political intrigue as well, but it's fascinating. I have absolutely no clue as to what the hell is going on and to how they're going to resolve it. And I fucking love it, because I'm thinking, Jesus Christ, is this person going to do? Are they that?
David,
are they here?
I have clung on. I have hung on in there with shows where sometimes I don't have a clue what's going on. If that show is quite well made, or if I get a sense that it may not be doing so deliberately, but it's got a sort of entertainment value. It's got an energy about it that I like. I will sort of hang in there and kind of think, well, it's bound to work. It's bound to all reveal itself in the end, or what. I think, well, it's my decision to stick with this, and I often will if a show makes me predisposed to appreciate it on some level. Sometimes it's because there's a hot girl in it. Sometimes, but not always.
I mean, last week they offered a character that I just went, fuck me, I didn't expect that, but it was really well done. And I'm just thinking, where the hell is this going to go next? And I just thought, I'm in. I can't wait.
Okay, the streamer, whoever it was, Dan, that posted that one, FU thing, what I would say to them, I would say, okay, back up your point of view. I said, I'm willing to be convinced. Convince me of, with however long a list you have, convince me of the merits of this show and why it deserved to continue. I said, I'm willing to open mind and see if they're willing to do it. No, I think they just want to.
Well,
they just want clicks.
I wouldn't usually do this, but I saw that post and I thought, God, those people who behind that show, they seem very, very upset. And in all sincerity, I laugh and I joke about these things, but I am interested in how other people feel about these shows and what they've got to say. And so I did go and watch some of that show, thinking, well, maybe they're just really, really hurt, and they loved this show, and they feel like that their week would be lesser for it not being on. I try to reach that position and listen to what they got to say. I watched about 15 minutes of their stream, and it was a, and they're not the only ones either. I've seen several others. It was incredibly nasty and uncomfortable, and all directed at other fans of the same show for political reasons rather than studio executives, for example. I mean, there was talk about, it's something to do with Donald Trump, and they're taking over this. MAGA has taken over. There was that tinge to it, but it was mostly the wrong kind of fan has won, and it was all, again, just more a group of people that are already divided, naturally divided in the way that we all are through our various tastes and political, but dividing even further and just spitting venom. It was very uncomfortable, and they were all so hot. They all had similar expressions on their faces to Gina Yashere in that video, and I thought, well, I'm not going to leave them a comment, because we've all been disappointed, and it was, like I say, it had only just been cancelled, and I've taken the piss out of them a little, because I do think that the way they behaved was unnecessary. But in all sincerity, I don't like seeing anybody disappointed and upset. But to me, that was perfectly so illustrative of the whole of the problem, and the idea that the people that they're turning arms on, people within their own fan base, I rather think, okay, why has this show failed? Why, if it is down to those other people, why do they feel the way they do, rather than they're just bad people? And it's getting it's so tired. And you think, how many times must their worldview collapse in front of their eyes? Not necessarily that cluster of people, but people who are that way minded en masse, time after time, the way that they feel about their fellow fans, or simply fellow human beings, if we're looking at a political realm, time and time again, it all disintegrates, and yet they go back to it. They somehow revarnish this sort of view of the world that they've got, and they take it back into battle again, and to watch it get destroyed before their very eyes, and they go again and go again and go again. The answer to the failure of loony leftism is never loonier leftism. It's never to double down on these ridiculous standards and these unprovable ideas and unhealthy labels that they're all too willing to fasten to other human beings, and who are fans of the same thing. I just think we go round and round in circles now for 10 years, and this was all done to us. It's been done to us, Chris, everybody else who's been making content, and it was done to them too. But really, somebody's got to break the cycle, because we can't carry on like this. What do you just shut down social media and stop making content in case some of us talk to one another? At some point or another, this has got to stop. Somebody's got to start listening to somebody else.
You nailed it on the head with your with what you said about the fact that it's all about their viewpoint. It's not about the health of the franchise. It's not even about the overall quality of this particular show or the writing, which was terrible. I don't know anything about this particular show other than I'm just reacting to the way you just described them. But what I get from that is that they're not ticked off that a Star Trek show is going off the air, or they're not such deep Star Trek lovers that the loss of any Star Trek show is bad. I'm betting that they're just pissed off that another vehicle for their agenda and their viewpoint is
Largely.
gone. That's all they care about. They wouldn't care if we were talking about Star Trek or Matlock or any show, as long as they're just going, oh, all right, another outlet for that really put out what we believe in is gone. That's what they're ticked off about. And this free-floating anger that motivates them, like Gina Yashere or the people on this podcast, needs an outlet somewhere. And so they're turning it against us bad fans, as the reason that, one of their outlets for their spew is now gone. That's all they care about.
Yeah, Gary,
Well, here's the. I'll say they don't even actually care about that. I haven't seen the podcast, so I don't know who it is. Although I've been attacked enough times where
I'm trying not to sort of point and sort of. I certainly don't want people to go there and give them a hard time.
Yeah.
Anybody in the comments, please don't do that, because they're not alone by any stretch. But obviously, when somebody puts out a thumbnail like that. it's quite eye-catching. They wanted to get my attention, they got it, but I think it's a symptom of a problem that's
and
a lot of people.
Dan, I think an important point, which is what I always say, especially if it's a bunch of white males on there, which I know with that very toxic fandom it usually is, but more often than not, it's not even their viewpoint. They don't even understand the viewpoint. Nobody goes against their own best interests in the way that these people claim to. It's, again, to use the word posers, it's something that they've adopted because it allows them to fit into the cool club. It also allows them to basically bully people with impunity, and that's what a lot of these people are. It gives them power without actually having to earn that power, because if you're on that side, you basically, it's not so much now, but at one point you had the ability to destroy people's lives.
Yeah.
So if I will call it out, anybody who is and I will say this right now, anybody who is a straight white male who took that viewpoint is a complete poser, because it goes against human nature to go against your own best interests in that way. Either that or mommy and daddy have money and you don't have to worry about how it's going to affect you. Again, posers, that's what they are. And I used to say, when I was going after them, your viewpoint. I now call it your adopted viewpoint. I think it's pathetic. And I think anybody at this point that is still doing it a decade later, you're also sort of 3 years behind the culture. But it's like, no, it's like you're adopted. You're a poser. I don't believe a word that comes out of your mouth.
We've got a few more comments here before we leave this segment alone. Everything is so toxic these days. It's almost like weak men controlled by women are running things. Well, that's we could go. It's fairly bang on. Special needs schools are now called academies, says Matthew Pender. Matthew. That's okay.
That's to do with funding.
CBS has been captured by conservatives, and it's still going broke. Ratings down across the board. CBS, that's also in a state of transition. The state of the US broadcasting landscape, I'm not up to speed on, so I'll hold my hands up to that. Things have changed hands. In so many quarters, different degrees of different things being, and some alliances that have been formed and some things that have been snapped up by others don't make any political sense, which is probably quite a good thing. It may mean that the paradigm will shift.
Well, here's just a quick point on that. Well, yes, it has been captured by conservatives. Here's what I want. I want apolitical content. I don't like the far right and I don't like the far left equally. I don't want to see CBS turn into a right-wing propaganda network. That's just as dangerous as what we've had the past 10 years. I'm like, both sides, the extremes of both sides want to screw you. They just want to screw you in different ways. I don't want anything to be a political mouthpiece. I don't care what side it's coming from. Leave your politics to your newscast. Just give me something to be entertained. Give me something that asks questions.
Yeah.
Give me something. If you're going to criticize one side, criticize the other side. That's what we want. And I think, Rob, it is legitimate because it has. And the funny thing is, CNN is about to be owned by conservatives, so it's going to be funny to watch how that plays out. But no, it's like I don't want to see it turn into the Trump News Network. That would piss me off to the same extent. People watch their TV shows and their movies to be entertained. They watch the news for their politics.
Generally speaking, when most conservatives tend to be, and again, there are exceptions to the rule, so nobody jump all over me out there. Most of the time, conservatives tend to be businessmen and women, and they're business minded. And if business people take over something like that, they tend to be rather more even politically, which is why I think that people who seek to undermine that have to work that little bit harder to find out who in which position holds what political opinions. They tend more often than not to keep their political opinions to themselves, and things run fairly smoothly. In my experience, that historically that tended to be how it was. It's certainly how it was with the BBC. Most British news organisations, certainly, they tended to be, particularly the commercial ones, were run by businessmen who were conservative. I think that Lou Grade being the prime example of that. Yeah. We've got PB777 in the live chat who says that Picard was soft. He's very moral and good, but soft, whereas Kirk and Sisko are strong, masculine leaders. That's a big difference. I see Picard as actually a very masculine in a kind of patrician way, I think.
Yeah. He's more of a diplomat.
A different kind of strength.
Picard was a very strong leader.
Yeah,
very, very, very strong. He had strong morals. He had strong beliefs. He had a strong belief in justice and fairness. He was very, very strongly principled. I don't see him as soft at all. In fact, I'd see him as probably one of the least soft.
Me too. And we've got this comment here from Funky, and this lines up with something that Chris has said time and time again, which I don't think this can be said enough, quite frankly. I don't know where the myth of Shatner being a bad actor came from. Yeah. He's brilliant in everything I've seen him in.
It came from memes in the 2000s is where it started.
I think it's older than that. I think it's older than that.
Well, actually, Saturday Night Live is to blame for that in the early 80s.
There used to be a TV show on British television, fronted by a journalist, a very amusing Australian guy called Clive James, and he used to get on various actors, large American, Australian actors, sometimes British, but they tended to be foreign, and he would often point at American actors in particular. He would get one of them on. He would play some embarrassing clips of things that they'd done. He'd always pick their very worst moments, often in long careers. People like Raymond Burr, William Shatner, actors like this. He'd bring them on, and he would kind of poke fun at them in a very benevolent way. But I think it was, and this was in the mid to late 80s, and I think it was born of that time. The simple fact is, I think that the way that Shatner and people like Raymond Burr, Charlton Heston, the way that they performed simply went out of fashion for a little while. I think, and then it came back, because I think things do sort of, as with all fashion, a lot of it sort of moves in circles and sort of comes around again. And I think that's what happened with William Shatner. I think there was this idea that because he's not a character actor, he's not Michael Sheen, he's not a chameleon of any kind. He largely always plays William Shatner, and the idea that is lesser in some way, that someone has to be a character actor to be a good actor, I think that's wrong. I think that's flawed, and that Shatner got sucked up by that.
He is to a certain extent, but I think also there were some Saturday Night Live skips, but in the early 2000s there was a meme. But I think a lot of it also comes from, if you've seen Boston Legal, the way he played Denny Crane, where the way he played that character suddenly became, this is the way William Shatner is in everything. He isn't. I'm like that. That was a character.
You know what? If I was challenged to give one example of prove William Shatner is a great actor, it wouldn't be anything related to Star Trek. In the early 70s, there was a production, I think it was for PBS, of a play. It was directed by George C. Scott. It was called The Andersonville Trial. And William Shatner played a lawyer who was in charge of prosecuting one of the commanders of right after the Civil War ended. He was in charge of prosecuting one of the men who led one of the internment camps.
Okay.
And he was on trial. And Jack Cassidy, who was one of the great Columbo villains, was the defense counsel. Richard Basehart from Voyage to the Bottom of the Sea played the man. And Shatner had to prove that this guy was guilty of, by the fact that he just followed orders, and that came up later on in history. But Shatner was beyond amazing in that he had to circumnavigate this thing to prove that just by the fact that he didn't take a moral stand and try to save the men in his camp, that he was guilty. And he is a revelation in that. So I urge as strongly as possible, you can still find it anywhere. I think even it might be on YouTube.
I think some of these things are worth looking at because I watched something very similar that he did in probably the early to mid 70s, where it was sort of like a proto version of the Harrison Ford movie Witness. He was investigating. I don't think he was a policeman. I think he was looking for a missing person, and he followed the trail to the Amish community, and it had that kind of slow boiling tension. And he played William Shatner. He had a slightly different toupee, David. It was a different toupee.
Absolutely.
It was his voice, his style of delivery, but it had that kind of Edward Woodward in The Wicker Man. It had that kind of intensity to it, and that's the creeping menace. And he handled it brilliantly.
Well, where the
examples of that dotted around his filmography.
The UK channel Legend has just started showing. Started this week actually, showing at 7:25 p.m. UK viewers if you wish to engage. And there is an app, a Legend app, for people without TV licenses that can catch up on it. They are re-showing TJ Hooker from season 1 onwards, and I am absolutely loving it because Romano, his portrayal of this sort of divorced cop who loves the job and has been gunned down and gone back into uniform, and his commissioner his captain says, "What are you doing still here? You're a relic," and all this, that, and the other. But his portrayal is fantastic, and it's obviously from his curly syrup days, which I particularly love. I love the curly syrup.
All right, I just checked.
But the second episode, sorry, Gary, the second episode has Admiral Hansen from The Best of Both Worlds as a fellow detective in it, and is directed by Star Trek Next Generation veteran director Chris Boley. Is it Cliff Boley? Chris Bowl?
Cliff Bowl.
So I would say Cliff Bowl, but it could be Boley for all I know.
I just checked. Andersonville Trial is right there on. It was in 1970. Is right there on YouTube. The Andersonville Trial (parentheses George C. Scott 1970) 2 hours 20 minutes. I practically beg anybody who's even the remotest William Shatner fan, if you have not seen that, it is
the kind of thing
astonishing.
Watch and
I have to
comment
check that
on.
out. And,
it is astonishing.
And just one last point on sort of the portrayal of Shatner, the idea of the broken cadence, which is actually not his typical acting style. There's 3 instances where that is employed. Now, the character of Denny Crane did use the broken cadence. That's how the character was conceived. In one episode of the original series, Return to Tomorrow, that speech that's used all the time, which I think it's actually, I love the way he delivered that speech, but it's like the one example where he used the broken cadence. But the most prominent example, which probably he should have done, I don't think I would have done in retrospect, but his albums, yes, William Shatner does have albums. Although if you think his albums are ridiculous, there's Leonard Nimoy. Check out his song about
Yes,
Bilbo
I've got-
Baggins.
I've got
You can't unsee that.
I've got that one. I am
different
your
world.
servant. Agrees. Shatner is a brilliant actor. Who else could have shined amongst all those aliens and weirdness? And
He's classically trained.
Unturned Stone 44 says, "I can see you, people. I can see you, people. We can see you. Well, we can see your comment. We can't see you. But it sounds like the little boy from The Sixth Sense there. I can see you, people." And goes on to say Thatcher and Farage connected. Some strange comments here. So obviously the pubs are still open. So that could explain that. But you do you, Unturned Stone. Thank you
He
for
was
the
also
comments.
great in Airplane 2.
Oh God, I forgot.
Who? Nigel Farage?
No, Shatner.
No, he was in an airplane crash, was it? We've got Defiant Foxes. I'm right wing, and I just want Roddenberry's vision on screen without the dogma
There you
from
go.
any angle influencing the direction of the show. And says, I don't know about anybody else, but I go to Star Trek to escape reality. Not to see episodes with everyday nonsense woven in to make a statement. Well, there is everyday stuff in those stories, but I think the difference is when they start using expressions, everyday colloquialisms and slang of today, like hook up and things like that we saw in Starfleet Academy. That is where it breaks the spell. That is where those kind of the translation of those analogies, it fractures the whole thing. It sends it out of whack, and it simply breaks the spell. That's not what Roddenberry was trying to do. I mean, I know that he was trying to get things past network execs and things like that, but the show is what it is. We've lived with it as it was for several decades. How it came into being is of historical importance, of course it is. But in some ways, you think, well, it is. That's how it works. Don't question why it works, except that it does work, and don't fuck about with it. But these people keep trying to reinvent the wheel, and well, I think they're just too lazy to look into it and think, okay, that's how that works. Maybe we shouldn't mess with that. It's a lot easier to just bang out any old shit. We've got fans of every performance of William Shatner's in the live chat, of course there are. And Unturned
He's
Stones.
really good in...
We could go on forever.
He's really good in Columbo as well.
We've got comments about literally every role in the chat. And Unturned Stone 44, please cancel all the other chat talking about me and other chats. Well, look, you reap what you sow, my friend. Don't come crying to us if you're coming out with bullshit. It is what it is. You're welcome to exchange comments with everybody else in the live chat, but we do have a nice team of moderators here who are very generous with their time, and we appreciate their support and their judgment. You're welcome to stick around and to put your opinions in the live chat here, as always. We don't expect them to go unchallenged, and if you're going to behave like a cock, they're probably going to say so. So yeah, just be aware of that, and we'll all get on just fine. We're all William Shatner fans, I suspect, and that usually brings a lot of people together. That usually brings people together, I find. Settle down chat says PD Rich. I couldn't agree more. Yes, so we have been here commiserating over the loss of Starfleet Academy, its cancellation. As Chris was careful to remind us, there's more. As somebody once said, there's more to come. A whole second season to follow this debacle, whether we want it or not. We've covered quite a lot on this edition of some of the things that we've talked about is things that I would imagine that we would have done, and other things are things to be picked up at a later date, I suppose. I'm glad all of this isn't my problem. We've just got to watch it. I mean, you could say that's a problem in and of itself, but the real problem is with Paramount and whoever owns Paramount now. It's a Skydance, isn't it? And where things could possibly go. How on earth are they going to make the 60th anniversary year of Star Trek memorable for the right reasons? After this, they've got a whole season of Strange New Worlds on the starting block, I know, but I don't think that's going to be enough. Somehow there needs to be something else. A biopic of Gene Roddenberry would have been brilliant. Looks like we're never going to bloody get that, are we? Maybe. I mean, there's still talk, of course, of more Star Trek. Robert Picardo seems convinced there isn't going to be any. Alex Kurtzman insists that there is. He insists that people are still talking to him. So he's told TrekMovie.com in the last 24 hours, I've had conversations with them. By them, he means Paramount. With them about the future of Star Trek. Yes, there have been specific shows that have been discussed, and we'll see. I'm truly at the beginning of the conversation with them now. And so I hesitate to say anything to you because I don't have anything to report yet, but I can report that conversations are happening. So these are conflicting reports that are everywhere right now, Chris, and talk of this sequel show that he wants to make to Strange New Worlds.
No.
They're leaving the sets up. They've got these big plans for something called Year One, which I couldn't be less interested in if I tried. All the other reports from everywhere else out there are that this guy is already history, and that they've been building up to a polite exit and divorce from everything associated with Kurtzman, simply to leave this chapter of Star Trek behind so they can focus in on that streamlining that we heard about earlier on. So I believe this is cope from Alex Kurtzman as he treads water to work out where his career could possibly go next, to be honest, Gary. I think he's a chancer, and he knows I think he knows he's been rumbled, and it's as simple as that. Whether that will affect Strange New Worlds or not, I couldn't possibly say.
Well, I have no doubt that he is still desperately trying to pitch ideas, to save his job at Paramount, and I'm sure they're politely declining because they just want to run out his contract. So I'm sure those are the conversations he's talking about. He'll pitch an idea, they'll go, no, next. And that'll keep happening over the course of however many pitches he has. Those are the conversations that are happening. But no, that year one, I mean, come on. The year one of Kirk before the original series started, I mean, come on.
Maybe we could have the whole prequel set on his lunch break. That would be
here's the thing. I think for all of you guys may disagree. If Star Trek's going to have any future, it's got to stop doing prequels and stuff set in eras like past eras. It's got to stop doing like the Discovery part set before the original series. As quality as a lot of Strange New Worlds is, which I think is very, very well cast. That's pre-Kirk. We've got they got Star Trek is always like forward. That's why one of the great successes of Next Generation when it got its act together is because it leaped forward. And everything was new, from the tech to the design of the ship to the fact they had families on board. It was brand new. It wasn't just wallowing in all that Star Trek can do with Kurtzman now was navel gaze, and it's like Trek has always been about more than that.
They had a perfect opportunity at the end of Picard season 3 to take forward the new story with Jack Crusher and 7 and 9. On the Titan, I believe it was, as a new series. Again, that would have taken a further leap forward from Picard, not from the Next Generation, not 75 years, but a 40 years and ish, and to go and have new adventures there, and that was your sort of like all it needed to be was rubber stamped, and that was your next leap into the future. And I think by setting stuff in the 31st century, it's ridiculously too far in the future for the Star Trek. In my opinion, I'm happy to be proved wrong, but I think they had the perfect opportunity to, with people re-engaged and thinking, can we, and people clamoring for it. And I think that was a huge missed opportunity. And I'm not happy about a Star Trek series not being in production. I'm not happy about the way that the Star Trek franchise is at the moment. I don't want to see Star Trek shows cancelled. But if they're not getting the viewers, if they're not being very well received, if there's lots of things in it that whereby the formula has been abandoned, the successful formula that I mentioned earlier on in the stream, then there has to be a look from the people of whom have been behind it, and a period of reflection to actually go, well, we had this opportunity to go forward with something that people were very eager with. Perhaps we should have done that instead, but I'm not sure if they're able to do that.
Yeah, Kurtzman was never going to do that because he was pissed off that everybody liked what Metalis did more than his own stuff. So it was an ego thing. He was never going to get on board with that.
That could explain why this is such a big doubling down on everything that people disliked about Star Trek Discovery. The way that turned out to be unwatchable nonsense. Season 1, all 10 episodes of Starfleet Academy Season 1 that aired from January through to March. They're available to stream now on Paramount Plus. Of course, our reviews are up on this very channel. To stream to your heart's content, to relive our pain all over again. We are in it for a second tour of duty. It'll be a lot less painful knowing that there's not going to be 5 seasons of this nonsense to have to endure, I suppose. I mean, you could say you can depart this journey at any point, but watching this sort of collapse and seeing if Kurtzman can make good on that assurance that they're gonna finish strong, or whatever he said, sounds revolting. If he's going to make good on that, obviously we'll see probably about this time next year. I suspect that it's going to be very, very low key, the whole thing, and that by the end of it, we'll be laughing, and so will they. Maybe the Paramount will be hoping that they've got away with it. I don't know, but it's been quite a 3 months. I was still laughing, I was still smiling. I sort of, but I think it's only our sunny dispositions that have seen us through this time, Chris. I mean, I couldn't have got through any of it without you guys. And of course, when that story broke, you were the first people I had to speak to compare notes about it all. And we've very much done that on this edition of the show, accompanied by the live chat, of course, here on YouTube and Rumble. So thank you, everybody, for that.
Dan, do you find it interesting that we haven't heard from Holly Hunter yet? I'm being serious. The fact that she's the front star of this show, we haven't heard a peep from her about her reaction to the show one day.
She got her money. She's gone.
She's off.
No, that's Chris. That's what I figured. But I figured, for putting on something that we would have heard something.
We never heard much from her when she was actually on the show. I mean, she was there and she was talking, but I couldn't hear a bloody word of it. So
if I were a betting man, I would say, sorry, Dan, I didn't mean to cut you off. So there's a bit of delay. I do apologize. If I was a betting man, I would put a soft pound on her being that sort of less is more type, dignified sort of actress from years gone by, if you see what I mean, who probably realizes that if she comes out a bit later and says something, she may be getting other offers from other places to be in other roles, and it may be that her agent's advice is keep stum, if you know what I mean. On that classic old less is more sort of dignified sort of silence, perhaps. Maybe
I'll be surprised if that woman ever speaks about Star Trek ever again. And I include, really? I think Chris is right. Even the promotion of season 2, I don't think that woman will be anywhere near any of it. I think she'll have her feet up, almost certainly her bare feet up somewhere, and she won't give a flying fuck. And to be fair, if they were stupid enough to give her the part in the first place, I don't blame her. I sincerely don't. She worked all the angles, pressed all the right buttons. Her agent haggled for whatever. We did have the salaries on screen, didn't we? A few weeks ago.
Yeah,
it was a good payday for doing basically fuck all. I mean, we don't know what she was saying half the time. She certainly didn't. Well done, love. It's all I can say. It's the perfect crime. It's the perfect crime in many respects, and I can't begrudge her pulling it off if they were stupid enough to leave the window open. Quite frankly.
Yeah, fair enough. Take the money and have a nice holiday.
And anybody who's mourning the the weekly hit of Starfleet Academy. I know that I think it's next month. IDW is coming out with a Starfleet Academy comic.
It's funny you should say that.
I think it's only probably 4 issues. I think it's just a mini series, but I mean the timing is unfortunate.
I wonder if the speech bubbles on the pages where Captain Mumbles is speaking, if the speech bubbles are also wibbly wobbly and wavy, you know, or the font is in lowercase, and you have to sort of squint to look at it.
I hope we get to find out what happened to Portly Dan. I really do.
Yeah, he got eaten by Plumpy. It's all over now.
The bridge
or Combadge girl.
Well, actually, the question is what happened to that entire bridge crew because they all disappeared.
Yeah.
They were the real stars. I mean, they were all winners. As they used to say.
My guess is they filmed the first episode, realized what they were in, and they were never heard from again.
We'll never know. Thank you for enduring another round of Star Trek Starfleet Academy talk, everybody. You guys in the live chat, thank you for joining in as well. We have further missions planned when warp drive is reinvented properly in the next few weeks, so make sure you stick around.
And I have an update.
Stick around in the short term as well, because even though we're leaving this part of the show behind, we're doing the cold open next, if you know what I mean. So we'll do that in a moment, and we'll do this in a moment. But for now, as regards to Star Trek talk, we have plans. We've got other missions dead ahead of us. We kind of know where we're going, and you've got to just stick around and trust our helmsmen, our navigators, and all the rest of it. So we'll see you out there with more of that soon. But don't go away. There's more coming up. Thank you very much.